Hey friends, and welcome back to the channel. If you're a pianist who's stepping into the world of accompanying without formal training, first of all, good for you. It takes courage, curiosity, and commitment to jump into collaborative piano work on your own without a degree or a teacher helping you out. But if you're finding it more overwhelming than you expected, you are not alone. I'm Rachel Ehring, a collaborative piano coach with over 20 years of experience helping pianists grow into confident collaborators. And today I want to walk you through 5 common mistakes that self-taught accompanists make, and more importantly, how you can fix them. So let's dive in. The number one mistake I see self-taught accompanists making is trying to play every note. And this is natural, especially if you come from a solo piano classical background, to think that your job is to play everything on the page perfectly. But here's the truth. As a collaborative pianist, your job is more about holding the ensemble together and playing confidently and to keep going rather than playing every note. Sometimes that means simplifying a thick, busy texture so the singer or instrumentalist can shine. It means letting go of perfectionism and playing what supports the performance best, even if that means leaving some notes out. Now, here's what you need to understand about collaborative repertoire that is different than solo piano repertoire. Some of it was written by the composer to be played on the piano, such as the Brahms and Beethoven violin sonatas and other instrumental sonatas. For those works, yes, you should absolutely try to play every note that is on the page in a performance. You want to approach them more like you would a classical solo piano piece. However, many of the other pieces that accompanists are asked to play, such as instrumental concertos, musical theater songs, or other pop music, was actually originally written for an orchestra or band. So that means you are given a reduction of the instrumental parts arranged for piano. And honestly, sometimes the arranger didn't do a great job of making it playable on the piano. In those cases, it's much more important to get the right feel for the piece than to play every note. I have another video on this topic that goes into this even in more depth called The Number One Thing Classical Pianists Don't Know About Accompanying. The second mistake that I see self-taught accompanists making is related to the first, and that is getting lost in the minuscule details of the piece instead of seeing the big picture. Yes, there is certainly value in figuring out your fingerings and woodshedding the tricky places in the score. Those are things that should take place in your individual practice time when you're alone. But when it comes time to rehearse with your musical partners, it is more important to think about the feel and the style of the piece, even if you let some of those notes go or mess up some of those carefully crafted fingerings. I want you to remember this. Having a good flow to the music is more important than playing every note perfectly. All right, number 3, the third mistake is only listening to the piano. This is a big one. A lot of pianists focus solely on how their own part sounds and forget to listen to the full texture of the performance. But collaboration means awareness of everything that's going on in the complete musical context. So for example, if you're playing with a singer, you need to hear, are they ahead or behind the beat? Where are they breathing? Where are they perhaps taking a little time with a phrase or pulling back? And perhaps most important of all, can you hear them over the sound of the piano? I've actually heard accompanists that get a beat or two or even a measure off from their partner and they don't even realize it because they aren't listening. You have to be aware of everything your partner is doing, and you should know your part well enough that you are glancing back and forth between your part and the solo part on your musical score. Listening is a special skill that accompanists have to develop, and musical partners will seek you out once you've developed it. It's kind of like being in any kind of relationship. If you do all the talking and never listen to the other person, you probably aren't going to get asked out on a second date. All right, mistake number 4 is not listening to high quality recordings. This one can seem counterintuitive to classically trained pianists. I remember when I was a piano performance major, my teacher cautioned me against listening to recordings early in the process of learning solo piano repertoire because she didn't want me copying one person's interpretation of the piece. However, in collaborative repertoire, you really have to listen to recordings to get a sense of how all the parts fit together. You want to hear where the melody is, if that ever changes, where there are tempo changes. Sometimes there are rubatos or things that aren't written in the score that are traditionally done that you will find out from listening to a recording. Of course, you could wait until your first rehearsal to find out these things, but why not put yourself one step ahead and walk into that first rehearsal with your partner knowing how things are going to work together? You might want to listen to several recordings of the piece to hear various interpretations. And I always like to listen with my pencil in hand so that I can mark anything I hear that is surprising or that I want to make sure I remember. You will learn and grow so much faster as an accompanist by using the many recordings that are so easily available to you these days. All right, mistake number 5 is thinking that you've got it all figured out. This one is a little sticky, but I'm going to say it out loud. I've met a lot of pianists who think they're great at accompanying even though they haven't had any training. And yes, I often say that if you can play the piano, you can be an accompanist. But that doesn't mean that you don't need to hone some additional skills. These skills can absolutely be learned, and having great piano technique and musicality are certainly the foundations of a great collaborator, but there is more to it than just playing the piano. If you have the piano chops but would like to learn more about what it means to be an accomplished accompanist, I would love to be your guide. My signature course called Dynamic Accompanying is for the everyday pianist who wants to take that next step toward becoming a confident and sought after accompanist. If that is you, I'll put the link in the description and I hope you'll check it out. I am so glad that you're here. I hope that we can work together to move you along on your collaborative piano journey. I'm Rachel Ehring, and I will see you back here very soon.